Scott, Jameis Winston came out here, was business-like, running this offense. I mean, was this a sign of something maybe that maybe he gets it now, or the fact that he was just this focused for one day?
Well, let's keep in mind they were playing the 2-8 San Francisco 49ers. That probably had something to do with it. But listen, the Buccaneers finished today +2 in the turnover margin, and that hasn't happened since week 1 when they were plus in that category. And Tampa Bay's been adept at killing itself, and they didn't do that today. And then the result was what you saw, 27-9 in the scoreboard. And Jameis Winston played a big part in that with 2 touchdown passes, over 300 yards, and no turnovers. That's the big thing.
Yeah, I think the play that will probably stand for the day, at least offensively, will be the touchdown to Adam Humphries, because it was a case of a play that wasn't going right. He spots Humphries, he makes a properly executed throw for that situation, and it was a disaster avoided. It wound up being a touchdown.
Well, you know, Dan, the golden rule in football for quarterbacks is don't throw across your body towards the middle of the field when you're running to your right. Unless it's to Adam Humphries and he's wide open. Yes. In that case, do it. And Jameis did. And that's the playmaker side to Jameis that is the positive. That's what got this guy the #1 overall pick status in 2015. And if they can get that Jameis, along with no turnovers, that's the formula for success for this offense, because there's so many weapons. Even with O.J. Howard out of the lineup today, we saw Cam Brate score a touchdown, Adam Humphries score a touchdown, Mike Evans go over 100 yards and over 1,000 yards this season. So if we see that Jameis Winston more often down the stretch, it's going to be more victories. Mike
Evans, he hit a midseason stretch where it was tough going for him. He had a couple of games, had the targets, didn't have the catches, didn't have the yards. Today was kind of a re-breakout. I don't know if that's even a word, but talk about his performance.
Well, it started with that deep shot against Richard Sherman down the field in the first quarter. That kind of got Mike going. And then I thought Jameis just did a really good job being patient, not really forcing some of those interceptions that we've seen, or those near-miss interceptions. I don't recall there being a pass today that really was in the danger zone. And I thought that Jameis's decision-making was really good, and Mike obviously presented himself as a target on more than one occasion and ended up with 100 yards. And this guy, I think, is having a Pro Bowl caliber season.
Deshaun Jackson visibly frustrated a little bit in the third quarter. Are we getting into this again? Okay, am I going to get my catches or not? Can these guys get together? There was a long pass where he overthrew him by 5 yards. Is this something now moving forward, even if Jameis's play improves, that this is something that may not sort itself out?
I think that's going to be the case, Dan. I mean, when you look, Jameis Winston has had 3 targets over the last couple of years. They are Mike Evans, Cam Brate, and Adam Humphries. And those are the 3 big-time receivers in the game today for Tampa Bay. And those are the guys Jameis has a rapport with, dating back years to his rookie season. And those are the guys that I think are going to continue to play a role going forward, more so than Deshaun Jackson or even Chris Godwin.
Defensively, this is how you draw it up. They came out, the defensive line came out as a unit and dominated this from start to finish.
Well, really, when you say the start, I mean, it started in the tunnel because the defensive line decided to, during the player introductions, to come out as a unit. That was Gerald McCoy's call. It was an audible at the last second, and it worked. It really fired things up. Carl Nassib started the party with the sack, a tackle for loss, and a big-time pressure in the first quarter. Then everyone else seemed to join along. We saw Jason Pierre-Paul get to 10.5 sacks and break the curse of Simeon Rice. They've had a double-digit sack right now for the first time since 2005. That's 13 years. Then we saw Vita Vea come to life, the former first-round draft pick from this year. He had 4 tackles, all behind the line of scrimmage,
that was
including a sack. So you can take Vita Vea's game today. He was more productive today than he has been in all of his other games combined for his rookie season. And Gerald McCoy also got into the mix as well. They really just controlled the game up front. And San Francisco had some signs of life here and there, but really Nick Mullins came in, completing 70% of his passes and not being sacked. It was a completely different story with Nick Mullins today, who was on the run, getting hit, getting sacked, and throwing a couple of interceptions.
Last week in New York, the linebacking core, it looked like, oh boy, here we go. Down Levante, Anquan, this is bad news. It was kind of a quiet effort today, which is a good thing. Is that a result of that D-line, you think, or did they tighten things up in the linebacking unit?
I think the defensive line was really the catalyst for that. When you can constantly harass the quarterback, sack him, force some incompletions, force some interceptions, which we haven't seen since week 3 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, that was the difference. I think it all starts up front, and it did today, and that made the linebackers look better. That made the secondary look better. And when you can have Brenson Buckner's crew playing the way that they are, it's phenomenal. And we had a story on PewterReport.com. Believe it or not, and it doesn't seem like like it because the Bucs defense has been so bad this year. Tampa Bay's defense is on pace to get 41 sacks this year with today's production. That hasn't happened since 2004 that they've had 40 sacks or more. Yeah.
Oh, crazy stuff. 2 interceptions. You mentioned the 2 takeaways. We're talking defensive backs coming up. And this is a unit. Remember, they were down Carlton Davis at one point in the second half. Injury-depleted unit. You get Ryan Smith and Isaiah Johnson coming up with the big picks. Does this group need this confidence?
Yeah, they really do. And I mean no disrespect when I say this, but really the back 7, the linebackers, and the defensive backfield for this team, Dan, it looks like the 4th preseason game with the names that are out there. I mean, there's Brent Grimes, and then there's everybody else. Everybody else is guys that were literally playing in the 4th preseason game here, or were playing for other teams and getting cut. So it's really phenomenal that they have been able to do what they've been able to do and keep games close and win this game with the personnel that they have, because they're so inexperienced, so young, and quite frankly not as talented as they were at the start of the season in the linebacking core and in the secondary.